Okay, start streaming, start recording. YouTube.com. Alright, stream's up. Okay, so if there are people that aren't here yet, they're just gonna get less time on the activity, I guess. Everyone have a good lunch, good break, whatever you did. I didn't eat lunch. I didn't really want to buy anything. There's not a lot around here, right? It's you go to Grubstack, walk to Burger King, or you drive somewhere. I don't want to do any of those things. So, you know, just kind of wandered around for a while. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys had a good break, kind of decompress a bit. We're going into Node, right? So it's new stuff. You want it to sink in. Okay, so we're immediately just going to jump into another activity. Do this one with partners. This one could be tough. But the idea behind this one is we want to take a number in from the command line. And for that number, we want to take every multiple of 6 that's less than that number and sum them. So what does that mean? Say the number 7. How many multiples of 6 are there less than 7? There's 1. 6, right? 6 is 6. Say the number is 12. How many multiples of 6 are there between 12 and 0? There's 2. 6 and 12. And if you sum them, you get 18. So that's effectively the exercise. You take a number for every 6, number of 6 divisible by 6, that it's less than that number, you will sum them all and get some output. So let's look. In here I have a solved folder, of course. Why didn't I think of that? And I have this multiple.js. Okay, so node multiple.js, and then I can type in, say, 24, and I get 60. Because that adds 6, 12, 18, and 24 up together. Okay? If I do that, I go ahead and... really? It's not going to run that command again? Node multiple.js, I pass in 12, I'm going to get 18. Okay? So that's 6 plus 12, you get 18. If I do that same command and I do it with 13, I'll get the same number. I do it with 15, same number, until I get to 18 when there's another multiple and you can add the 18. Okay? So that's what we're going to be doing. And then there's a bonus if you get to it. This is activity number 7, right? Yep, activity number 7. The calculator was number 6. So you can work on this as in a group. That's fine. Work with a couple of people. And, yeah. The bonus is to take in 2 parameters and do some multiplication and stuff like that. So.
So 13, I did the number 13.
Yep.
And I got 2, 6, 15,
6 and 12, right? So you have every multiple of 6 below a number.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? So 6 and 12 are below 13, so then you add those 2 numbers up. So say if the number is 19, how many multiples of 6 are there? 3, right? 6, 12, and 18.
Yes.
And you add them all up. 36.
Okay.
Yeah, this one's kind of, the verbiage is kind of weird on the exercise, so if you have trouble figuring that out, that's okay. I had to read it a couple of times too. I actually had to look at the solution before I was like, oh, okay, that's what they're asking. So, it's a little weird.
Can we do that? Can you just flash out the screen?
Yeah, flash it really quick. Oh, okay. Guess we'll find out, won't we, Rolando?
Sounds right. Sounds right.
The point of this exercise is, again, to work with the command line, just get a feeling for a node. It's not a super important exercise. Honestly, they tell you if you don't have enough time to skip it, but we have a lot of time, so we're going to do it. Basically, you have to take every multiple of 6. So every number divisible by 6 including. So you're going to have this command. You're taking a number. Say it's 13. You have to find every number below that divisible perpendicular to 6. So that's no remaining, right? In that case, that's 6 and 12. Correct? And then you take those numbers that they have to add together. Think about, as a hint, think about an easy way in JavaScript that you can go from one number to another number in increment by a certain amount. That's my hint for you.
Can you bring up that terminal part where you were actually doing the commands?
Yeah, you want to see the output of the command?
Thank you. So what's actually going on in this 24? 24.
It's adding 6, 12, 18, and 24.
Oh, so it's adding all of this.
Yep, add on the multiple. So 6 and 12 are 18, right? And you have 6 and 12 are both less than or equal to 12. Same with 13. 6 and 12 are the only two multiples of 6 less than 12.
No, yeah, I do know.
Can you add like, so if I have like multiple like what do I call it, like math functions like the same line, so can I like do like the process divided by 6 times 2 or something?
Yeah, it's order of operations.
So it'll just do the divide by and then it'll do the, and then it should be the times after that, right?
Yes, since they're the same precedence.
I feel like you can do this in like one line of code by doing it like that.
I don't think you can. You might be able to. You might have a better solution than I know of if you think about it.
Yeah, so I was thinking if you had the like the process argument or whatever, say it's 12, you do 12 divided by 6 is 2, and then can you just do 2 times 6 or something? No. Wait, let me see here.
Don't think too hard about doing it in one line of code because it's going to make it harder to solve.
Yeah.
Do it in as many lines of code as you need, but get it solved first. Then worry about getting rid of code.
Yeah.
So my hint again is, what's the easiest way in JavaScript? We can go from one number to another number and increment by a certain amount at each step. We know how to do that already. I'm not asking you to yell it out. I'm just saying, what is it? Thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Can you do two, like, can you do like a one, or like, have the process number we're doing, or say it's 12, could you do like 12 plus equal 1 times equal 1? Does that work?
Oh, try it.
No.
So here's what I'm going to tell you. Getting this multiple thing is less important to me than making sure you have the proper number of command line arguments, making sure that it's a number that's coming in, making sure that the user's not putting weird values in, right? If they put in a 5, what's your answer going to be, right? So making sure you have good validation of command line is far more important to me than it is figuring out this weird convoluted problem that you want to solve. But yes, the answer is you can use a for loop to do this. So that's my hint. Statement, hint, whatever. Take it as you will. I'll give you like 2 more minutes. So. Couple minutes probably. Yeah, but I'm not. The reason why is JavaScript is not a hindrance to me at all. I know it so well. I can write a ton of lines of JavaScript to solve this problem quickly. So I've got that advantage over all of you guys. You may know JavaScript well at this point, but not as well as I do. And so I can go faster, you know? No, I'm just saying that's the reality of the situation. When you can go fast, you can iterate through more problems, right? And I can try more solutions faster. So I may not be able to solve it in my head faster than you, but I can solve it through code faster because I can iterate over it quicker. That's really what the answer is.
I think I did it with one line.
I told you not to do it with one line.
Yeah, no, I did it separately and then I just made
Okay.
it one.
Alright, did anyone finish it? A few people? That one was really quite confusing. The verbiage there is not helpful. So let's look at the solution. Alright. So, you can go ahead. We take in a command line argument. So the reason why I'm saying I could probably do it a little bit faster is because things like getting command line arguments, making sure they're the proper format, I can do those quickly because I know exactly how to do them off the top of my head, right? So I can try a lot of things fast. It wasn't meant to be like, oh, I'm so smart. It was meant to be, I've done this for such a long time that these things are now easy for me to try and try and try again. Because quite frankly, the README, what it said for the problem was really confusing, and I just looked at the solution. Because I was like, I don't know what the hell they're asking me. Anyway, what you can do is you can take in your argument, right? You make sure it's a number. We could do better, right? We could say if it's nan, well, we can't process this. You messed up, which is a good thing to do. You could check the process.argv length to make sure it's at least 3. You don't care about past 3. That's not important. But if it's not 3, if it's 1 or 2, then not enough has been passed into this script, so you literally can't even process the command, right? So that's more validation you can do to make sure that this thing is even going to work. And those are important. Those are the things I would say I value more in this problem than figuring out some convoluted loop for determining numbers divisible by 6 below some input, right? That's a problem that's just some dumb math problem. But what we want to learn in this class isn't how to solve dumb math problems that you'll never have at work. It's how to write good code, right? So, and how to write code fast and effectively. So anyway, turns out you can use a for loop. You set it to 6 because that's the first multiple, right? And while the number is less than your input, just add 6 every time. Those are your numbers that are divisible by 6, 6, 12, 18. And your for loop's naturally going to stop counting if whatever your current number is plus 6 is more than or equal to your input. So if my input's 13, I get 6, I get 12. Those are both less than 13, and then I get 18. Well, 18 is greater than 13, so we're done. So I have the sum of 6 and 12, right? So you can make a pretty elegant solution with just a for loop, which is really what's interesting about this problem. And then you can go ahead and log it out, right? Any questions on this? This one is really weird. Again, if you didn't solve it, I understand. It's kind of irritating. But I wanted you to get more exercise with the command line. I wanted you to get more exercise parsing integers out of the command line and understanding how to use the command line. That's what's important. That's what you should take away from this exercise. Okay? Any questions before I move on? Cool. Well, we're going to learn about something a little different now. We know in JavaScript that we can create multiple files on the browser, right? So I can have a file. I can do all kinds of things. Name equals Carson. Console log name. I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm just going to console log my name. Nothing serious. Okay? And if I just do node and then run JS, it's just going to say Carson. But I'm writing a big application, and I'm like, hey, I need multiple files. I want to organize this code. I don't want to put it all into my run.js and do all that kinds of stuff. Say I have a bunch of objects or something, and I want to store all those values in those objects so I can, you know, separate them out. They're not cluttering up my main logic file. How can I do that? Well, Node does allow you to do that. So say I create an object, right? These are my essentials, the things I would need to survive. Food. Taco Bell. That's not how you spell taco. Toca Bell. Taco Bell. I need Taco Bell. Fun. Coding. That's fun, huh? Friend. No one. Perfect. The essentials. The things you need in life to survive. Right? So in traditional JavaScript, I could just be like, oh cool, console log essentials.food. Right? Because that's what it's called. Essentials and there's food, right? So it should print Taco Bell. Oh my word. Essentials is not defined. Well, the browser does some fun stuff for us that we don't get in Node. One of those being all of the JavaScript files that are loaded into the browser for your web page are part of this global scope, right? They just all kind of exist. But if we were to do that here in Node, that means every JavaScript file on your machine would just be in your file, right? You'd be able to use all of them. Well, that's a bad idea. And on top of that, how is Node going to find every JavaScript file that possibly exists? You can't do that. So there's no way for Node to know all of these files it's supposed to use, right? Because the browser's loading them. You're telling them what files to use. It's loading them, pulling them up, and then it's like, okay, well, you all just kind of exist. Node doesn't have that. But what Node has is a different way for you to split logic into different files. So I have this essentials, and I want to get these essentials into my run.js file. Okay, so I'm just going to open these next to each other so we can watch. There is a keyword called module. And module has another keyword called exports. Okay? Module exports is basically an object that you can use to export anything from a file. So I can create an object here, and I can pass in my essentials, right? What I'm telling Node is that this object.js file is now exporting an object that has a property called essentials that is equal to my object essentials. Right? And if you're not familiar with this syntax, it's the same thing as doing that. Essentials is essentials, right? Remember, we're setting a property essentials in the object equal to my essentials object. So there's a couple layers of objects here. So you got to keep that in your head, but that's okay. We want our module exports to be an object. It's the best way to do it. I'll show you a little later as we go further into Node why. But just note that module exports as an object is a good way. So I want my essentials to be exported. So run. Still exploded. Because I have not defined a way for my other file, run.js, to know where it's getting these essentials from. So even though objects.js is saying, okay, well, I'm exporting essentials, run.js still has to say, well, I want to import the stuff from the essentials, right? I want to import the stuff from my objects.js file. Node also allows that. I'll call this obj. It's called require. It's a function that you use, and you pass in a relative path from your current file to the file you want to import. In this case, objects is in the same directory. Let me show you. Objects is right here, run is right here, right? Objects is in the same directory, so you should be able to import it. So now if I go ahead and run this, it still exploded. Why did it explode? Because I'm trying to use the essentials object that exists in my objects I imported. So now my module exports is saying we're exporting an object that has essentials in it, but essentials just doesn't become available when I import the file. I still have to take it out. So if I look in here, my IntelliSense is already telling me it exports this object, essentials, inside that parent object that has 4 properties: drink, food, fun, and friend, right? Now, if I run, I get Taco Bell, right? And just for verification, I don't think you have to put the extension, but maybe you do. I don't remember. Yeah, okay. So, don't put the extension. It's pointless. That's why I didn't put it at first, but the example has it in there. I was like, what? That doesn't look right. Anyway. Exporting and importing. It's very different in Node. It's something that is a prime differentiator between Node code and browser JavaScript, because browser JavaScript doesn't have this idea of modules. This objects.js is considered its own module. And that's why we use the module exports. Run.js is its own module as well. However, Run.js is the class we're actually going to run. It's the script we're going to run. Can I run objects.js? Sure, but literally nothing happens. There's no reason to. And when you build a code file, a JS file, as a module, you don't want it to be code that can be ran, right? This is like library code, code you want to share, stuff like that. The point is, as our applications grow and scale, you're going to have a lot of code. And the more code you put in one file, the harder it is to find things, the harder it is to change things, the harder it is to remember where things are, what they do. It's easy to do things like overwriting stuff. It's easy to do things like using things inappropriately. Hey, this function does too much. We're going to use it all over. Things just get messy, right? And the other thing is, when you have a lot of code in one file, it's impossible to really know what that file's for. It does a bunch of stuff. What is that file for? I don't know everything. Great. You know, that's not very helpful, especially when you are working with other people. Hey, what's the Run.js supposed to do? Run the application. That's not helpful. What's objects.js? Well, it has all the objects we use in the application. It's a little bit more helpful. My naming could be better, sure, but at least it adds some value there, right? So what else can we do? What else can we export? Var number equals 10. We're going to call this essential number and set it equal to number. So this one I wanted to do differently so you can see that it's just an object with properties. And let's go ahead and console.log, and I'm just going to use it directly from the objects. This essential number here, right? So if I go ahead and go back to the command line and I run my run.js again, now you can see I have Carson, Taco Bell, and 10. Remember 10 I said is my number. I exported it as my essential number. And then right down here, I'm console logging my essential number. What else can I do? How else can I use these exports? Oh, lots of ways. What if I want to export a function? Function test. Console.log. This is a test. What if I now do call test function? What do you think it's going to do? Anyone? This is a test. So I can export objects. I can export numbers, variables. It doesn't matter what the variable is. It doesn't have to be a number. It could be a string. Say you have a constant, right? And you want all your constants stored in one file called constants. Put them in there and export them, so everyone can get to them. Say you have functions. So you imagine already I have functions I can export. You can start building libraries, right? So you can have this similar functionality built into this library that several different files can now use. Right? So there's all kinds of things you can do with these imports and exports. I can even build another layer, another file, objects2 maybe, give it a terrible name, a name that you'd never want to use in real life. And I could import objects2 into objects and export those things from objects to run. You can do that. Yeah, question?
So in line one, where we're inputting required objects into that object, if I wanted to say have a separate object, create objects2 there, var objects2 equals required dot / objects, would it be the same object or would it actually be two different objects?
That's a really good question. So the way require.js works is if I were to do like that.
Right.
No, I need the dot. Require.js actually caches what you import. So it's the same object that you're getting in both.
So if I change essential, or if I change number in object, it'll also be changing objects.
No. It shouldn't be. I mean, we can verify that. So if I were to do something inside of the objects file, okay, so say when you import it the first time and then I change a bunch of stuff, so if you import it again it's different, then objects2 would be different. Because it like caches it, it's quite complex.
So it cached the object when it imported on line 1.
Yes.
And it cached a new object on import line 2.
No, it used the same one that it pulled from the first one. But because of the references, I'm fairly sure that if I were to do objects, I mean, I may be wrong. Saying essential number equals, let's just set it equal to 100. It's console essential number. If there are true references, then yeah, I suppose this will work. Let's console log it. Yep, they're the same thing, so indeed, it's just a reference in objects2 for objects1, so you can change it in either one, the same one. So, good intuition. Any other questions? Okay. So, we are going to go ahead and do an exercise. Is exercise number 9, the bands activity. Let me go ahead and show you what it does. Okay, so you'll see that it printed out when I ran it a couple of bands. A punk band is Green Day, a rap band is Run DMC, and a classic band is Led Zeppelin. Right? So you're going to be making a JavaScript file called bands that exports an object with different genres of bands. So a punk band with Green Day, rap, Run DMC, or a classic Led Zeppelin. And then you're going to make a run.js file that takes those and says, the punk band is, the rap band is, the classic rock band is, the composer is, you know, those kinds of things. And then as a bonus, make it so your program takes a parameter, like classic, rap, pop, punk, or whatever, and then can print the band associated with it. And if no parameter is passed, then loop over all of them. Okay? So I will slack out the instructions. Nope, they've been slacked out already. Thanks, Will. Those are the instructions, yeah. So you got about 15 or so minutes to work on that. And I'll leave this up so you can kind of see what it looks like.
This right here gets the link to the object. I guess like object dot and then the object dot link. So that'll get how I guess how many variables are in there, but then I don't know how to like access the index of it.
Yeah, so for the reference example, I can require this again down here, and I'll just read, and you'll still have that.
Yeah, I was hoping I could use that to like create multiple objects, but no, it's like
No, and that's,
JavaScript doesn't allow you to do that either. It's like, that's irritating.
yeah, it becomes a problem because if people mutate it, like that's one of the things you're never supposed to mutate those objects, right? Because it affects everything, the entire application, by changing something accidentally. And JavaScript doesn't prevent you from doing it. So, the safe thing to do is if you want to avoid this problem, you do object spreading, which we'll get into a little bit later, where you basically take everything out, so you're not using the same reference anymore. Because if you can avoid using the same reference, then it's fine, it's not a problem. So this is the same reference, right? Because I said it was cached, so it creates this object once, and it just returns the same one every single time. But if you did something like test essential number, what's happening is you're taking the variables out, and these variables have their own references, totally different. So now, if I were to do this for both of these, and not have the object 1 or object 2 there, I can mutate the individual ones and it should be okay. Because their references have been copied as values over to the new ones, so you wouldn't be affecting the original anymore. This is reference and value passing. It's kind of a pain to keep it in your head, but the object spread takes the original object, that object 1, and you can't access it anymore. So you're forced to use them in a different way. Right?
How are you going to name them differently? So if you did, like you have the top line, and then you can build the second line, make a second instance of the numbers.
I'm not sure that as is in here, but you can do this. What that does is it assigns test function to test function 2, and that avoids naming collisions.
Okay, so utilizing that now, they will not be the same. Right?
Yes, correct. Because the reference that we were using of object and object 2, you can't get to them, right? Because they've been split up, right? There's no object variable anymore for you to reference. So you can't directly reference that reference. And so essential number being a number is a value type, and if you just change this essential number, it won't affect anything else. So if I just change this, this line is going to explode. Jeez, where did the C go? All right. Yeah, this one will explode. Let me comment these out. They're not important anyway for this example. Alright. So this one, damn it, this one will explode too. What was this? Oh, where did I put this? 07? Yeah. Oh. We gotta name things right. Alright. So now, see, I have essential number. I'm setting to 100, right? That I'm pulling out of object 1, and then I'm calling essential number on objects 2. It's no longer 100, like it was before. Because before I had the reference to object 1 and object 2, which is the same reference. And when you change something on a reference, it changes it for that object. But now I have a new reference to the essential number right here. It puts it in its own variable, effectively. It's no longer associated with that object. So it's its own thing. So I can change it, and it doesn't matter for objects 2. Now again, if I change objects 2 here, and then I were to re-import this essential number, that one would be changed.
Alright, so if you want to group larger items together,
this will
that'd be irritating. So if we wanted to group the essential items, the numbers, we wanted to have all that code recreated individually. So that we have a new monster
when
every
you run it
single
now,
time.
it's not giving you
Like
that
monster
how
classes.
it's supposed to be, but
Then would kind of like irritate right
To spread this
yeah, so
every time?
say you like have a monster object, like to your right objects is your monster. Your monster has health, monster has all these various things and everything like that. You don't only have one, you only have one.
Okay, so what you would do instead is create a function to create a monster, right? And you'd export a function that creates a new monster, and then that could just return a new object every time. So you wouldn't import the same thing over and over again. That's bad practice, because you have this problem, right? Instead, you'd create a function in here, create monster or whatever, that would return a new object of type monster. Make more sense?
Function object.
Yeah, so
Because I mean that's where we were going with this before. I was trying to see if this could be utilized, but
nope. But you could do this, right? And every time I call create monster, it's okay because it's a new monster.
right, and that's what we can go. I'm just curious if this would be a different solution, but it's not.
Yep. Yeah, no problem. Potentially, for parts of it, yeah. Absolutely. For the bonus stuff you're talking about?
This part gets how many objects are the object I guess. How many variables are in the object. So that would technically be 3. So if I put all of this in like a form less than 3 or whatever, you're thinking, but so it's 3 of them, so not for each function key. I think that key parameter is accessing the I think this is called the key, but I think it's accessing that. So the key, if the key is context, put in key, which is a temporary variable. So I just changed context to context. And then band. Honestly, I'm not familiar with saying that. I just know that it is.
What was that? None.
It's probably
Okay, let's go ahead and go over this. Fist of 5, how did we feel on this one? Using exports, and most people are feeling pretty good, okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the bands object, or the bands file. So remember, the first part of the instructions was we needed to create an object that had the bands, Green Day, Run DMC, and Led Zeppelin with their genre, right? So punk band, Green Day. Rap band, Run DMC. Classic band, Led Zeppelin. Okay? And then we needed to export that stuff so that we could get to it from our other file. That was the big goal here. We need to export it. So that module exports, remember, it's an object. Or it can be an object. It can be anything, right? We use an object in our example, which means you can directly export an object. And in this case, we can directly export my bands. You just set them equal to. You also, if you wanted to, could have done something like this, right? Could have done that too. It would work. It requires more work from you in the import, but that's okay. It also works. Either one's fine. As long as you effectively export the data, you're okay. So let's put this. So let's look at the regular solution first. The goal of it was just to be able to import the bands, and when you run the command, it's going to loop through all of the bands, and it's going to display information about them. So one of the things you can do with objects that I honestly don't even know if we've covered in this class yet is you can run for loops over them. So this isn't the only way that you can go through this problem, right? So you can do this for loop where you do var key in band list, and what it does is it pulls the property name out, right? So the key for the different properties inside the my bands object are punk, rap, and classic. So a punk band is, and then you reference the value at that key in the object with the key. So a punk band is Green Day, or a rap band is Run DMC, or a classic band is Led Zeppelin, right? What's another way you could do this? You could go ahead and build those, right? Var punk band equals a punk band is, and then go ahead and add band list, bank, band list dot punk, right? So you could do this for all three. Punk bank. For some reason, I cannot type band today. I did bank like 3 times. Classic. What was that? Oh, yeah. Alright, so we could do something like this, right? This is functionally equivalent to the other one, but with more lines of code. Let's type that out. Alright, so this one right here, these 3 lines of code, are functionally equivalent to the 6 lines of code I wrote here. Either one technically solves this problem, although you can see with that for loop, it's significantly easier to loop over an object, right? But I don't think we've covered that, so I wouldn't expect many people to get it that way. You had a question?
Well, yeah. So, for example, you have multiple bands inside of a specific genre.
Uh-huh.
So, say you have multiple rap bands.
Okay.
Question whether or not you can use a for each group to go through.
So say right here you had an array of rap bands.
Yeah.
Could you use a for each loop on that?
Yeah.
Like right here, for instance? Yeah, absolutely you could. These can be arrays, most definitely. So if you wanted to print every single rap band, you could make that more complex by looping through the value at that key, right? So I could do like bandlist.wrap.forEach or for each wrap band in, it would look something like this. So say we have an array right here. Who's another rapper? I don't listen to rap. Hell yeah. Alright, so yeah, you could do var key and then you could do your console log here. So you'll notice though that this is slightly different, because the first one with the object is var key in bandlist, and the one I just wrote is var band of bandlist.wrap, right? There's a distinction, and that's why I was saying this one's a little confusing. When you use in, it's for key value pairs. When you use of, it's for strict values. So if I were to do var band in bandlist.wrap, I would actually get the index of the band in the array. So these for each loops are a little different. I don't want to complicate this example too much with them, but yes, absolutely, you can use one of these to go through an array. It's just they're slightly different syntax. Okay, so this is the base example, going through and looping through the bands. Any questions on this? I know this is slightly new syntax, so either one is totally acceptable. Obviously, this one that they offered us is a bit more ideal, right? It's fewer lines of code, a little bit easier to write and digest. Any questions on this one before we look at the bonus one? Okay. So let's look at the bonus one. So this one was a little different because we're taking a command line argument, right? So we need to make sure that there is an argument at index 3 in the array, or index 2, which is the third index. And then we can loop over the keys. This is one way you could do it, where you loop over the keys, and if the key matches the genre or there isn't a genre, then you can print all of them, right? It's very interesting that they chose this for the solution, because this is not taught any of this. How else could you do this? So Andy was asking about the switch statement, right? So when we have a genre, you can go ahead and do case punk, right? And right here you could do console.log right? Could you do that? What's another way you could do it? Bank again. Bank again. Okay, so right here, I'm using the genre and pulling a band out, right? So in this case, if the genre is punk, it'll give me Green Day. However, I can use the truthiness. Then right here, I can console log all of them. So I could do this for each in key, right? Otherwise, just console log the band. Correct? So let's walk through this, because there's a lot going on. Alright, so I'm going to use punk because I defined punk for the switch statement. So what's going to happen? I put punk in there. Node, run bonus, punk. And again, the instructions were, if I give a specific genre, it's supposed to print the band at that genre. If I give no genre, it's supposed to print every band. So if I put punk in here, what's going to happen is, we're going to go ahead and import our band list. It's going to check to see if there's a third command line parameter, right? And if there is, it's going to assign it to genre. In this case, it's going to be punk. Then we're going to go ahead and loop through all the bands. And it says if the key, so remember the keys are going to be punk, rap, and classic, if the key equals punk, or there isn't a key, or the genre's not defined, so I didn't enter anything in the command line, then we're going to go ahead and print the band. In this case, there is a genre, it's punk, so when the key equals punk, we're going to console log a punk band is, and then it'll print Green Day. We go down to the switch, I'll show you in just a moment, and it's going to switch on the genre. So if there's no genre, it's not going to hit anything here. But if the genre happens to be punk, or if I define one for classic or rap, it's going to go ahead and do a similar thing where a punk band is, and then it's going to pull the band at that genre out of the band list. So in this case, the punk band will be Green Day. So again, we're going to get the same thing to print. In this third scenario, I'm just pulling the band out first. I'm saying, okay, so if there's a punk band defined, and the genre's punk, right, we'll get a band. If there isn't a band, if I grab nothing from this object, then I'm just going to print all of them. Otherwise, print the specific one. So if I do node, let's clear, node, where am I? That is not the right place. Alright, so if I do node, let me clear again so you guys can see, node, run, bonus, yes, punk, I'll get Green Day printed 3 times, right? Because genre is being pulled out of the command line right here. It's looping through and seeing if the punk key equals the punk genre, then print that band. It's then switching on punk, printing the band, or right here it's pulling the punk band of Green Day out, and it says, oh, well, there is a band, so go ahead and print it. If I put nothing here, I'm going to get a lot. So remember, for this one, if the genre is undefined, which in this case it is, it prints all of them. There's no switch statement for an undefined genre, so it prints nothing. And in here, it finds no band because genre is undefined, so it prints them all again. So that's why we see all 3 of these printed 3 times. So there are quite a few ways to solve this problem. Using objects is highly versatile. And that's something we haven't gotten into super in-depth yet, working with objects. And so that's why these solutions, I wanted to kind of give you a little bit more to the solution than just the one they presented. Are there any questions on this? I know this is quite complicated, and I'll Slack this out so you guys can look at this as a separate example. Yep. They all do the exact same thing. This is one of the beautiful things and the terrible things about JavaScript. Is there are, you know when they say there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat? I know it's not a great, thing to say, right? You're skinning a cat, that's terrible. But there are 1,000 ways to write JavaScript. And you'll see every single one in the wild, so you better know what they all do.
This is where Daniel will start complaining about JavaScript.
This is the best part about JavaScript. I'm going to take the opposite stance. Because you can write some very elegant code. Now, before you guys go, does anyone have any more questions? Fist of 5, how do we feel on this? Okay, I'm getting a lot of different answers now. All right, I'll Slack this out. Feel free to ask my class on Monday. Ask Daniel about this stuff again on Tuesday. Wait, we got to go over the homework. I'm going to go over it really quick. I'll just go over it, Chris. I got it all pulled up. I'm going to go over it really quick. We'll breeze through it, and then you can go. All right? So that's all. Just chill. Just chill. All right. Let me pull it up. Okay. So what we're going to build for this week is we're going to call it a Siri-like application in Node. Okay? So there's some things that you're not going to know how to do quite yet, but we'll learn in the coming days. They're going to make it pretty tough. So we have this Lyri.js file, which is like our Siri. And you're going to be able to type a bunch of different commands. For instance, concert this, Childish Gambino. And it'll tell you all the different concerts for Childish Gambino coming up in the future, right? So this is going to do a lot of things. One, you're going to have a command line tool that is going to take commands, and based off of the command, it's going to do something, right? So you're going to have several commands, okay? For instance, we could do another one. Let's do another one. Movie this. So Space Odyssey. Okay, you can use the OMDB API. Go out to get information out of Space Odyssey, bring it back and print it to the console. So it's going to do a bunch of things. You're going to be able to get information from Spotify about a song. You're going to be able to get information about an artist going to a concert, information about movies, a couple other things. This is going to do a lot, right? It's going to work with Node. Do it from the command line, so you're going to have to parse commands. You have to parse input to commands. You're going to have to figure out how to use packages in Node.js. You're going to have to figure out how to do AJAX. Well, it's not AJAX anymore. We're going to have to figure out how to do asynchronous like requests to other APIs from Node. This stuff's going to be, right now, this seems like impossible, but at the end of the week, come day 3, we will cover literally all of this functionality. So this is what your homework's going to be. We'll slack out the instructions. They should be in the week 10 folder already if you want to check them out. It's called the Leary bot, right? It's going to be pretty cool. Any questions? Ask, otherwise you're good.
I'm thinking the following. So like, during this homework,
What's that? No UI, all command line.
From like a website perspective, the idea that we're looking at these like objects and variables. Say you have a whole website where people have like an account name, and then like their favorite color or whatever. It is your website, right? So like we see their JS database, it's like a bunch of objects and it pulls like their information based on who they're friends with,